Our role city manager is to facilitate council deliberations and helping them understand what it is they want to achieve for the city of Elgin. Okay, so the city manager works with, and there's several of them here today, a fine group of technical experts, and I work with literally some of the best and brightest, hardest working people that I've ever been associated with to run the operations of the city. So I'm like a city manager is a connection point between the staff and the city council. And so on some days, if you watch my work, I'll look kind of more like a city staff member. I'm working with the fire chief on, do we purchase a new fire engine, and having conversations with Rick Kozel about the city's budget. And other days, I am talking with Councilman Dunn or with Councilman Steffen on about what is going to be our policy approach to revenue diversification for the budget. So I kind of have to move between both worlds to make sure the system is working appropriately. My mother was a social worker, and my grandmother was a social worker, and so I spent a lot of time, hearing about and being exposed to. My grandfather was the head of the Teamsters Union, and my grandmother was the head of the local Republican Party. So that was a really fascinating. So basically, my whole entire childhood, I was exposed to, on a constant basis, arguments. So again, further preparing me to be a city manager. Explain the difference between what the mayor does and what the city manager does. And so I found that to be very interesting and thought, why would I want to be the chief of police of some town someday when I can be the chief of police's boss? I mean, that's so much better, right? Until I found out, well, you're only the boss actually in theory. City management is a blend of government service along with business. So as a CEO, council manager form of government was modeled after as part of the good government movement, how our corporations run. And if you look at the city of Elgin, like all other municipalities in Illinois, we are, the city of Elgin, a corporate entity. We are a municipal corporation. And so the mayor and the councilor of the board and the chairman of the board, and I'm the CEO for the government operations. So city management is the perfect blend of being in the world of politics, but not directly, but enough to assist elected officials, but also having that more scientific business type of approach that those that are interested in management, like many people in the room are. When it comes to the day-to-day operations, I joke all the time that if I wanted to actually run the city in the way people think the city manager does, I would have stayed assistant city manager. Because you're actually running the city. You're in charge of the day-to-day of the budget, personnel. You're much more available to department heads as the assistant city manager. And I'm kind of all over the place, mostly spending time on council relations, either with individual council members and briefings or in communicating issues with the council, and just spending a lot of time thinking about what's next. So I view my role as city manager to be not, by the time something hits the agenda for a public meeting, we have a city council meeting tonight, I worked on that with the city council months ago. And so I'm already working on things that'll be on the agenda later. So, and that allows the staff to focus on what's now, with some notable exceptions. There are people that are charged with thinking about kind of what's next, but that's where I spend most of my time. The primary purpose of local government, really all government to some degree, depending on how you define it, is public safety. So the way I view public safety, it's not just police and fire, that's easy, but it's also code enforcement and public works, because if the snow's not plowed, it's very difficult for a fire truck to get down the street. So that is the primary purpose, because individual citizens cannot provide for public safety effectively or cost efficiently on their own, maybe outside of the plains of Texas. But that is the primary goal, and so everything kind of flows through that. So if you look at our budget, you want to know where a city's priorities are. If you want to know where businesses' priorities are, look at where they spend the money. And so we spend the vast majority of our money on public safety, and so the priorities are set by design and by the public's desire and need for those services. So I don't have to spend a lot of time thinking, should the parks budget be bigger than the police budget this year? I mean, if I submitted a budget, you can ask my bosses, where we're cutting the police budget in half so we can spend more on parks programming. That would be my last conversation about that. And so it's on the margin. So our capital budget, like the riverboat budget, how much do we devote to purchasing new police vehicles versus developing new parks? I think that's where the priorities come in. And again, my role is to facilitate that conversation by the council. Well, it's hard. The highs are higher and the lows are lower. I had a conversation with council now, who's been reelected president, Councilman Shaw, on Monday, and he said to me, Sean, when this is all over, if I'm still here, which he will be, we need to have a conversation. The community has an identity crisis. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, I've been going door to door to door, and every door I knock on, people have different views of what the city is and what the city should be. And I smiled and I said, therein lies the challenges, but also the opportunities of the job. Well, I'm glad you said leadership. So I think first and foremost, it's to understand that I am not a leader. I don't believe in the word leader. I believe in leadership. Okay, these aren't my thoughts. These come from a theory called adaptive leadership by a guy that I've talked about quite a bit, Marty Linsky and Ron Heifetz, where people every day, everyone in this room has the ability to engage in what's called leadership behavior. So there are positions of authority. So the city manager is a position of authority. But that doesn't make me a leader. People can be in positions of authority and never leave. We see it all the time. I would, if I didn't demonstrate leadership on a regular basis, it would be the easiest and safest job in the world. Okay? Because leadership's dangerous. So I don't believe in the word leader. I believe in leadership. And so the idea of adaptive leadership, the way I approach my job is to constantly spending time with city council members, with city staff, on having conversations about how do we adapt maybe not only our behavior, but our thinking about the way we see things. And if we think that the Great Recession is over and everything's good again, we will repeat it, and it will be worse the next time. And so I am constantly promoting this idea of organized chaos. And I need my people, and I need council members that are adaptable. Everything is about adaptability and empathy. If you're not empathetic, put yourself in other person's shoes, and to also have the skills and techniques to be able to be prepared for anything that's going to come your way, and understanding that as much as we all love stability, I mean, look, I've got more stability today than I thought I might have had. And that's a great thing. But it's fleeting. And you have to be prepared for that. So this idea of promoting adaptive leadership, focusing on what I call adaptive problems. What I would say to that person is just be prepared to have on your own, what does success look like for you? Because you'll never really know from the public. And if you get lucky, and I'm certainly lucky today with your elected officials, I know what success is for them. So we have those conversations. But oftentimes you won't know. What does success look like? And it's much more difficult to determine. I'm not saying it's a more difficult job, because I don't know. I haven't been a CEO for a business. I know for small business owners certainly have incredible pressures, but I would prepare them for marching into a world of complete uncertainty. And if they like and are comfortable with uncertainty, I am, then they'll probably do okay.